I cannot believe that this was done without influence. If it was done without influence, it means that the very people running the process are completely incompetent. So it's one of the two. Yeah. This is certainly not a process that was run by competent individuals or people that are serious about cleaning up the South African Police Service.
The chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Police has criticised the acquittal of the 8 VIP protection officers accused of assaulting a motorist on the N1. Cameron says he now plans to write to the Minister of Police and the National Police Commissioner to demand an explanation for the outcome. The officers assigned to protect Deputy President Paul Mashatile were captured on video, dragging a man from his vehicle and assaulting him at the side of the busy highway. Cameron joins us now live from Cape Town. You have said that this is shameful, this decision is shameful and immoral. What do you think exactly about this decision undermines the pursuit of justice?
Thank you very much. I think it's a total miscarriage of justice. And you know, there's one yes or no type of question and answer that I would like to ask the South African Police Service management, and which I will ask them, and that is it okay for a member of the South African Police Service to assault an innocent civilian anywhere in the country, yes or no? And according to this disciplinary, the answer is yes, it is okay. Because it seems that when you're in the South African Police Service, especially attached to the unit protecting the president or the deputy president, you can act with impunity. So it's very embarrassing. As you correctly said, I said it's shameful. And we will now write to not only the minister, but also the management of the South African Police Service to understand how on earth this is possible.
We've also reached out to police authorities and we're told that they are studying this and they will respond in due course. So we'll be waiting for that with great anticipation. But Ian, in your view, was this a failure of the internal, or a reflection rather, of the internal weaknesses within SAPS's disciplinary processes?
Yes, certainly. It's a major failure. It's not the first time that something like this happens. And it really is extremely frustrating to see the way in which it also wasn't communicated to us as the Portfolio Committee or as Parliament. You know, we've been inquiring about this for quite some time. We've been asking so many questions regarding the specific issue, and we were ensured by the management of the South African Police Service that we would get the relevant feedback timeously. Now, this acquittal was already done on the 7th of April. So the fact that they only now need to start studying the decision of the acquittal is extremely worrying, because that tells me that on a national level for human resource management, they are not monitoring the serious cases as closely as they are meant to. It also shows me that they don't have a case management system, and it also shows me that there's a lack of earnest when it comes to the removal of rogue police officers. And these officers are rogue, and I challenge them to take me on for saying that, because what they did is blatantly criminal.
Do you then believe that there might have been political interference in or protection involved in how this case was handled, especially considering that the officers were attached to the Deputy President's detail?
I would not be surprised if there is some kind of political interference. Now, the reason I say this is, one, because they're attached to Paul Mashatile's unit, and Paul Mashatile's close protection detail has been in quite a few controversial incidents. You'd remember that last year they were caught assaulting innocent members of the public in Khayelitsha when he trespassed on someone's property and went into someone's house without any permission. The second one was where they recently were filmed driving into oncoming traffic. The third was the so-called attempt on the life of the Deputy President, which in my opinion was a total sham. It was a political campaign. And it really is concerning then to see that a unit like this can then obviously do as they please. What the second part that is concerning to me is the person that signed off on the letter that was a response to Action Society's prior application regarding the disciplinary process against the 8 members. And that is Major General Wally Roeder. Now, he himself has been questioned regarding the non-reporting of the Pala Pala incident. You'd remember the scandal in Poland not too long ago when they were all stuck in an aeroplane because of several reasons, and now this again. So it does seem like Presidential Protection Services in the South African Police Service is a little bit of a police service on their own, almost like a political Gestapo or a political police service just for a few elite persons.
What you're describing there, what you just said, and the words that you use, Ian, certainly send a chill down one's spine, and therefore it makes the response from the relevant authorities even more critical. I want to circle back to the fact that you said you've intended to write to both the Minister of Police and the National Police Commissioner. So what is the exact demand you're making of them?
So they would need to come and answer. Look, we will soon be in a process of reviewing the South African Police Service Act. So there's a process in there where we need to ask very critical questions of disciplinary processes, the involvement of unions. And don't get me wrong, unions play a critical role in some of these types of matters. But it seems in this specific case and several others as though they are acting as defense lawyers instead of fair labor representatives. So we need to consider that. And then we also need to consider the status quo as it is currently, where we see serious offenders sometimes being found guilty in a court of law, still being allowed to serve in the South African Police Service. If we're serious about cleaning up, we need to do that. So those are the types of things we will review. And then obviously on a more short-term basis, we will be questioning the decision itself. We will be questioning the process and the way it was run, and also try to get to the bottom of who influenced it in a certain way, because I cannot believe that this was done without influence. If it was done without influence, it means that the very people running the process are completely incompetent. So it's one of the two. Yeah. This is certainly not a process that was run by competent individuals or people that are serious about cleaning up the South African Police Service.
So when you say questioning, and as you've already outlined, you've written for a response from the Ministry and from the National Police Commissioner. But what legislative actions, I mean, what scope is there for either reform or legislative actions that you believe Parliament should be prioritizing, not only in this case, but to prevent something similar happening ever again? Because you said right at the very beginning, this sends the wrong message to the public. It also sends a wrong message to these VIP protection guys that they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, so I think the use of force specifically needs to be questioned when it comes to legislative amendments. We need to zoom in on the use of force by police. Not saying that force shouldn't be used, but we need to define when and how it is used. And don't get me wrong, I'm not someone that wants to flood police operations with bureaucracy and red tape. But it is important that something like this can certainly not be allowed or even considered to be okay in any way. Think about it this way. If we look at the procedure, the so-called procedure by those very members, there was no crime scene. They didn't cordon anything off. No one followed up on it. There was no report of an incident afterwards. If it were not for a civilian that filmed it, chances are we would never even have found out about it. So it tells me that there was no intent to follow up on any kind of criminal act or any kind of transgression or threat to the Deputy President. It tells me that it was a blatant act of vigilante. I don't even want to call it vigilante because there was no reason for the altercation. So those are the types of legislative amendments that we need to make in order to prevent something like that occurring again.
What's your quick and final message this morning, Ian, to South Africans who are feeling outraged, who are feeling disillusioned, but also fearful in light of what's happened?
Well, I think it's important that we say we don't lose hope. It frustrates me tremendously. So I understand the frustration among South Africans. But it's important that we exhaust every single remedy to our disposal and that we don't stop questioning it. And it's critical that whether it's through the media, social media, that South Africans keep on sharing the message. We need to expose every type of incident like this, and we must demand accountability. It's not going to happen overnight, but I can tell people that we really are working extremely hard to push back against ludicrous decisions like this one.